The millions of American Jews come from varying backgrounds and live in cities all across the country, and you might find that their perspectives on Israel can be just as varied. But as they make up nearly half the world's Jewish population, we're joined tonight by a guest who represents the largest Jewish movement in North America to get some perspectives on the issue of annexation from inside that community. We're joined by Rabbi Rick Jacobs, the president of the Union for Reformed Judaism in New York, coming to us from New York here now. Thanks for being with us here now. I'll just jump right in, representing this largest Jewish movement in North America, albeit not one represented in the communities of the West Bank. Is it clear where your community sits on the issue of annexation?
Thank you. Good to be with you this afternoon. It is very clear where our movement sits. And first and foremost, we sit as the largest Zionist organization in North America. Our connections are deep to the state of Israel. Our love is absolutely enormous. And because of our strong Zionist commitments, our movement is clearly opposed to the unilateral annexation of parts of the West Bank. The key word there is unilateral. And I think it's an important and complex conversation, but I don't hear a lot of dissension in our movement about the dangers of annexation and the threat to the Jewish democratic state.
Now, adding on to that here, how has this Reformed community, been navigating? I know it's been a complex relationship at times with Israel, at larger in light of the recent issues with Prime Minister Netanyahu's perceived lack of pluralistic acceptance, specifically around the Western Wall. Is this an issue that's pushing the American Jews further away?
There's no doubt that unilateral annexation will be a giant push away to particularly North American non-Orthodox Jews. And it's particularly hard when you feel so close and so connected to the people and to the land. And I would say that's really the basis of our connection. It's not to a political party or to an individual politician. It's to the people, it's to the ideals, it's to the deep longing of the Jewish people throughout history to have our own homeland. And it feels particularly difficult to imagine a time where Israel is going to be Jewish or democratic, but not both. Those are core Zionist values. Those are core Jewish values. And I think our questions and, frankly, our discomfort with the proposed different scenarios with annexation is that it pushes right against the core of who we are as Jews and who we are as Zionists.
And now I want to drag you into the political mud just a little bit, Rabbi, if I may. That Democrats versus Republicans on Israel, we're seeing this divide, nothing new perhaps, but where is this going in light of the Jewish community's political allegiance? Where's it trending, and where do you think this ends up?
So first of all, it's important to know that the overwhelming majority of American Jews are liberal and vote liberal candidates. It's not just one issue community. We have many issues. And what's clear is that almost 200 Democratic congresspeople wrote a letter speaking up against annexation. And they were clear, they were strong, and frankly, they were speaking from the heart of the Democratic Party. There is, of course, within the Republican Party, a sense that if there's to be a position, it ought to be in favor of annexation and in favor of whatever possible peace plan is going to move forward. So the divide is very much along political lines. But I think what has been key to Israel and to the Jewish community is that our support for Israel has been bipartisan. It has not been a partisan issue, but I will say over the last couple of years, it has become largely partisan, and it's become a wedge issue. And that's most unfortunate, because what keeps Israel secure and what keeps Israel right where it should be with not only the elected officials, but with the people, is that we have deep shared values. And what is really at risk here is also the bipartisan support. There won't always be a Republican in the White House. There'll be at some point Democrats. And, the swing has to be, no matter who is in the White House, no matter who controls the House of Representatives or the Senate, that Israel is a shared commitment, and that is at risk. and annexation puts that bipartisan support, along with a number of issues over the last couple of years, at risk, and that is deeply concerning.
Important point you make there, Rabbi, absolutely. But one last point, and we have just less than a minute here left. The Trump administration peace plan, was it embraced as a starting point by most of your community or not?
Anything that will advance the cause of peace is embraced by our community. But we have deep questions about the possibility that this will really move forward. We certainly will support anything that makes a two states for two peoples solution possible, gives Israel security, protects the Jewish democratic state of Israel. Those are all things we stand up for. And honestly, there can be, remarkable breakthrough. We saw that, with Jimmy Carter. We saw that with, Democrats and Republicans over the years. But there is concern that this is not based on a real clarity of how we can move from the current impasse, that it has to be negotiated between Palestinians and Israelis. It can't be imposed by anyone, not any U.S. president. And so we're concerned that the real goal has to be peace and two states for two peoples, and makes Israel more secure and gives Palestinians autonomy, freedom, and the rights they deserve.
Rabbi,
if the peace process will deliver that, it's a good thing.
Thank you for being with us. Appreciate your perspectives and your time today.
Thank you.